I'd like to call this meeting to order. Today is Monday, December 1st, 2014. It is 7:30. We're here for the purposes of the regular meeting of the Elmhurst City Council. I would ask that you all rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk Cyprian, I'd ask that you call the roll.
Gutenkopf?
Here.
Deuter?
Here.
Dunn?
Here.
Leader?
Here.
Palumski?
Here.
Graham?
Here.
Toludo?
Here.
York?
Here.
Levin?
Here.
Healy?
Here.
Conquest?
Here.
Kennedy? Mulliner?
Here.
Wagner?
Here.
13 present,
Yeah, but is it?
1
Oh,
absent.
special service. I got it, I'm sorry. Okay, sorry, what was that?
13 present, 1 absent.
13 present, 1 absent, we have a quorum. On to agenda item 2, a hearing within a hearing, right, Don?
Yes.
This is for SSA number 6. The proposed property tax levy increase for special service area number 6, public hearing. This is a public hearing scheduled for this evening. The public hearing concerns the city's proposed property tax levy increase for the special service area number 6. I'm calling the public hearing to order and ask Clerk Cyprian again to call roll for this meeting.
Gutenkopf?
Here.
Deuter?
Here.
Dunn?
Here.
Leader?
Here.
Palumski?
Here.
Bram?
Here.
Toludo?
Here.
York?
Here.
Levin?
Here.
Healy?
Here.
Conquest?
Here.
Kennedy? Mulliner?
Here.
And Wagner.
Here.
13 present, 1 absent.
13 present, 1 absent. We have a quorum. The purpose of this public hearing is to take public comment concerning the city's proposed tax levy increase for special service area number 6, also known as the Elmhurst City Center. I would ask that the clerk read any written comments received concerning this matter into the record.
There were no written comments received.
Okay, at this time, Clerk Cyprian, did we have a sign-up sheet for this?
We did.
Okay, are there any members of the public who'd like to make any comments for the record?
Gilbert Fisher has signed in.
Okay, Mr. Fisher, name and, is address appropriate or inappropriate? Just your name and the microphone's yours, sir.
Good evening. Gilbert Fisher, 586 North Van Auken Street, Elmhurst, Illinois. I'm against this more taxes. My tax bill this year, there were 2 lines on it that went up. All the other line items on my tax bill on my house went down. Guess what 2 items went up? School District 205 took more money from me, and the City of Elmhurst took more money from me. How much money do you people need in taxes? I have a house. I pay you a lot of money in taxes to the City of Elmhurst. And because I have a house, I use electricity. Guess what? There's a tax from the City of Elmhurst for using electricity in your town, our town. I use gas, tax, electric, tax. I use my telephone, tax. All it is, you, my government, look at me as a blood bank for money. No more taxes. I am suggesting that you stop all this building, cut the taxes, and just fix our streets. You know how much trouble I had driving down the streets on the north end of Elmhurst coming from my house tonight? Go around holes, ridges, everything else. I don't know how your snowplows do it. They must be raised up about 4 inches from the pavement. Otherwise, they'll hit all the ridges and holes and break the truck and kill the driver. No more taxes. Stop taxes. Thank you.
At this time, is there anyone else who did not have an opportunity to sign in that wishes to address the issue of special service area number 6 at this time? Seeing none, any comments from the dais? I'll ask for a motion to adjourn. Motion by Alderman York, second by Alderman Mulliner. Clerk Cyprian? Oh, I can do this by voice vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Official hearing is adjourned. Back to our regular scheduled meeting of the Elmhurst City Council. On to agenda item 3.1, written receipt of communications. At this time, is there anyone in the audience who has any written communication they wish to submit? Please raise your hand. Seeing none, we'll go on to public forum. Public forum, this is an opportunity for anybody in the chambers, the opportunity to speak before the council on any item they so choose. We ask that out of respect for the work that we have to get done here tonight, in addition to the other folks that may want to speak, that you keep your comments to 3 minutes. If you go over your 3 minutes, I will give you a gentle reminder and ask you to wrap it up. Clerk Cyprian, is there anybody this evening who has signed up for public forum?
There is 3 people.
Fantastic. Who's first?
Gilbert Fisher.
Mr. Fisher, the floor is yours again.
Thank you, sir. Good evening. I just saw a nice vote over here for taxes, which is fine. You're the government. You know what's going on. I will not say Pledge of Allegiance to that flag as long as my rights to vote were taken away from me when we had a president elected from the state of Illinois, and my vote for a senator was denied me. I fought for that flag, and I'm just saying this to give you a little history of what I'm going to say next. Now, a year ago, I told you about Blue Cross Blue Shield denying my wife and me our policy, which we had in effect since June of 1960. At that time, it was denied because of Obamacare. Obama got on the telephone and on TV and said he's going to extend it for 1 more year. You can keep your policy, you can keep your doctors the way it is for 1 more year. This is a year later. I got 4 things from Blue Cross Blue Shield. Our insurance is being canceled because of Obamacare, or the Affordable Care Act, however you want to call it. Last year, we were going from $433 a month to $1,150 a month. This year, as of January 1st, they haven't told us, not told my family, what it's going to cost my wife and me for the new insurance for Obamacare. It's quite obvious he's not going to extend it for another year, and we won't have Blue Cross. We'll have Medicare Part A and B, and that's it. Another thing I want to bring to the forefront is about minimum wage. You're the government. You have to be involved in this. It affects you and everybody. My wife is retired on Social Security. She gets a little over $600 a month Social Security, which comes out to about $4.35 an hour for an 8-hour day, 5-day-a-week, 40-hour pay. If they're going to raise the minimum wage, I think everybody on Social Security should get a minimum of $10 an hour. That means that my wife would go from $600 to $1,600 a month. And believe me, we can use an extra $1,000 a month because we probably won't have Blue Cross Blue Shield insurance because we can't afford it. You're the government. You're supposed to take care of us. When I was denied my right to vote for a senator and they put in the black man, nobody said anything. Now, they're taking away my insurance, my health care. Is anybody going to do anything about it? Say anything? Anybody going to call up and say, please, let the insurance for the white people go on like it has since June of 1960? Thank you very much for hearing about this.
Claude Pagaz.
Claude Pagach, 566 Wakes, Gladys. We have an ordinance on the agenda tonight, ladies and gentlemen. A no-bid contract for the concrete work for the parking garage. It's one of the worst things you can agree on to vote for. It's open-ended. Allows for a lot of change orders. Private industry, unless there's a drastic emergency, never goes for a no-bid contract. And my understanding is you'd like to do this in the middle of winter. You got a taste of what it's going to be like out there. If this contract doesn't have winter protection in it, you're dead in the water. It's going to cost you thousands. Excavators aren't going to destroy their equipment to dig in clay that's frozen. Something radically happened because the engineers originally designed caissons and grade beams for this parking garage. Now you're going with a shallow foundation. Somebody had to redesign it. That means it cost me. You better have one of the greatest soils engineers going while this building is going up, or you're really in deep trouble. Cores were taken, and that's why grade beams and caissons were originally designed. You paid an engineer to redesign this. It means the soil's got to carry it at a shallow depth. It doesn't, you're in trouble. If winter really sets in, you're in trouble because you're going to be paying for it. Nobody winter protects for nothing. I've tried it myself. Over the years I was involved in it, and it's a lot of work. And soil freezes because it's got moisture in it. And that means everything they run into where the soil doesn't meet the bearing capacity, you're going to pay for the extra excavation, the extra reinforcing. You've already repaid for the design. Whoever made this decision was a fool. That engineer that originally designed took into account what those cores showed him. This is like building your house with an open-ended contract that lets a contractor do whatever he wants. I have no faith in your partners, by the way.
Mr. Prakash, you're at your 3 minutes. I'd ask you to wrap it up.
Oh, yeah, and on the budget that you have to vote for, why wasn't all the little things like giving away tax dollars, general obligation bonds, total, the money you're going to spend on HON, the money you're going to spend for flooding that the city manager is going to come back to you for? Go on, vote for this thing. And next January, you'll be spending millions again because you'll vote on it because you're stuck with it. So before you vote for that budget, consider what you don't know you're going to have to vote for.
Tamara Brenner?
Tamara Brenner. Couple things. One is that I'm pretty sure it's getting close to the 60 days that Lucky Motors was given to respond to the city's letter back in October, so I'm looking to hear an update on that either tonight or the next meeting. Second thing is zoning. Still, tonight you've got on the agenda item 6.10 to pass the development project for Han Street. I'm sure there will be much rejoicing that that's finally going to get passed, rubber stamp. I don't see the applicant even here in the room tonight because it's so certain that it will be voted for. There was no deliberation at the Zoning Commission hearing. There was also no deliberation at the DPZ committee meeting last week. I read the report, which I didn't have access to during the committee meeting, but I didn't see anything that indicated deliberation on several topics that were brought up. I don't know how you can do justice to the zoning code by never deliberating on issues that are brought in front. The latest meme from the zoning department and pretty much all the great thinkers of the city of Elmhurst is that there's a huge disconnect between the zoning code and the comprehensive plan and the downtown plan. I think the disconnect, there's a small disconnect perhaps, but not a large one. There are small things that could be rectified and improved. But the big disconnect, I think, is between what the city is trying to do, or actually getting ready to do, and what the zoning code and the comprehensive plan and the downtown plan say. That's where the disconnect is. The disconnect is that the city is doing things that are outside the boundaries of those plans. The downtown plan and the comprehensive plan call for densities at 20 dwelling units per acre. The zoning code calls for densities at 29. Even the city's earlier plan this year was to suggest increasing densities to 40. Now all of a sudden we're going to 85 and above without any discussion about what the ceiling ought to be, or whether this is a good idea, or whether this is going to apply to the whole downtown or what. I'm personally in favor of moderation. I think the 2029 could be moderated, but going up to 85 without discussion, 85 or higher without discussion is a problem. Oh, and by the way, the referral on tonight's agenda about recording committee meetings and zoning commission deliberation meetings, I think that's a great idea. I hope that will make its way through the system and come for discussion and implementation at some point. Also on the Hahn Street application, the application was brought forward as a planned development, which I find really curious. And I don't think that it's met the criteria for planned development under the zoning code, which of course was never discussed at the zoning commission hearing or at the DPZ committee meeting. In the zoning code, under the section on planned development, which is a subsection of the conditional use, it says planned developments are of such substantially different character from other conditional uses that specific and additional standards and exceptions are hereby established to govern the actions of the zoning and planning commission and city council. Those are the rules you should be operating under when you're trying to approve a planned development. They include things like bulk regulations that have to do with density, and overruling those with things like saying, well, we're just applying a variance here, make a mockery of the zoning code. If these rules were to be followed, they should be followed, not to be overridden. And if they can be so easily overridden, then why do we have a zoning code at all?
That's it.
Okay, that's it for everyone who's signed up this evening for public forum. Is there anybody in the audience who did not have an opportunity to sign up for public forum but wishes to address the council? If so, please raise your hand at this time. Okay, anybody else? I see one. Ma'am, you're up. Please make your way to the microphone and give us your name. Address is optional, and we look forward to your comments.
I'm Paula Wolf. I have property in the 100 block of Willow.
I'm sorry, could you repeat your name again?
Paula Wolf.
Okay.
I have property in the 100 block of Willow. I actually live in the 400 block of Larch. Willow has been flooding longer than Larch, but now we're in a bad way on Larch. And I think, Golden Meadows will help Willow if it ever comes to pass, if all the parties involved will agree. But in the interim, since people don't want to do something in York Commons, and they don't want to do Golden Meadows, because it involves the school district, the park district, why don't you come over and help us on Addison, Larch, Maple, and those other streets? Because we're not asking to use the school district or the park district. And if, in our tax money, I often wonder why it is spent the way it is. Why do we need another parking garage? Why do we need more storefronts when you can't fill what we've already got? We need, as homeowners, we need our streets fixed so our homes don't take on water. Since the last flood issue, we haven't been able to use our basement. And I'm not the only one in Elmhurst. And I don't understand how Elmhurst is rated within the top 10 communities. I didn't feel like that when we moved here in 2003. But after losing the basement 4 times, and that's the reason we bought our home. And I'm sorry, people, you're listening, I think. You're staring at me, but I feel like you're kind of bored because you keep hearing the same thing over and over, and we don't get any answers. It goes to this study, to that study, and we still have to pay our tax bills. Where are we getting? Thank you.
Okay, anyone else at this time who did not have an opportunity to sign up? Seeing none, we'll move on. Announcements, any announcements from the dais? Alderman Honquist.
Shocked. I just wanted to make a quick announcement to the residents of the 6th Ward that tonight Alderman Kennedy's not here because he's at a school board meeting that was hastily arranged over the weekend that, as best I can tell, is going to ask the citizens of Elmhurst if they will vote for a referendum come April 7th to use the green space in the control of the school board for water detention. So we're not sure why it was called this late or what all the details are. We'll find that out later, but we had to split up tonight, so that's where Alderman Kennedy is. I just want to make a public announcement. Thank you.
Okay. Any other announcements? Alderman Dunn.
Yes, Alderman Leader and I will be having a town hall meeting this Thursday, December 4th at 7:30 at the Fire Station Number 1 in North Elmhurst. All are welcome to attend. Thanks.
What time was that? Did you say?
7:30.
7:30, okay. Any other announcements? Seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. At this time, is there anything on the consent agenda that anybody would like to see removed for further comment or possibly vote no? Alderman Braham.
Yes, a few, Mr. Mayor. 610, 612, 614.
610, 612, and 614. 610, 612, and 614. Okay, anything else anyone would like to see removed from the consent agenda? Seeing none, I'll ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda minus items 6.10, 6.12, and 6.14. Motion by some alderman, Alderman Palomsky, second by Alderman Mulliner. Clerk Cyprian, please call the roll.
Wagner?
You all for it, Pat?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I think it's Alderman Palomsky and then Alderman Mulliner.
Okay, okay, Alderman Bram? No.
Bram, are you for
Oh,
it?
I'm sorry. All right. Palomsky?
Aye.
Mulliner?
Aye.
Wagner?
Aye.
Gutenkopf?
Aye.
Deuter?
Aye.
Dunn?
Aye.
Leader?
Aye.
Graham?
Aye.
Toludo? Aye. York?
Aye.
Levin?
Aye.
Healy?
Aye.
Conquest?
Aye.
And Kennedy. Oops, sorry, absent. Okay, 13 ayes, 1 absent.
13 ayes, 1 absent. Consent agenda is approved, minus 6.10, 6.12, and 6.14. On to 6.10. This is a report out of DP&Z. To put this before the council, I would ask that Clerk Cyprian please read the recommendation.
Which one? Okay. Therefore, the Development Planning and Zoning Committee recommends that the City Council approve the applicant's request for preliminary and final plan development, conditional use, and associated variations. The city attorney is hereby directed to prepare the necessary documents for City Council approval.
Okay, to put this before the council, I will entertain a motion to approve the report and recommendation as read. Motion by Alderman Levin, second by Alderman Palomsky. Alderman Levin, this is a report out of your committee. Do you want to set it up for us?
Well, I can't imagine it's going to take too much setup, because it's a topic that's been debated and discussed at great length before this body. And following our RFP selection of this developer, the application to do what the developer proposed and we selected went before the Zoning and Planning Commission, which unanimously passed these requests for variance, exceptions, et cetera. And it was deliberated by our committee, and we felt that it's in order, and it is recommended for passage.
Okay, Alderman Braham, you pulled this?
Yes, sir. Yes, I agree with Alderman Levin's comments that this has been discussed and it's coming to fruition over not many months, but many years for the Hunt Street redevelopment. As I have voiced in the past, and I'll just voice briefly tonight, I do have concerns and not in total agreement with all the variations that are being proposed. The parking space, what I would call limitation, is a concern of mine. Definitely the height is a concern of mine, but I'm not going to go into that much detail on either of those, or no detail really, because we've already discussed it at length. My concern, though, is that I think we're, and this is going to sound a little bit ironic from the statements that I just made, we're a little bit ahead of the game of voting on this report. And what I mean by that is that I think this report should be voted on at the same time that we vote on the RDA for this very property. Because the RDA portion, or maybe even a report out of the Finance Committee, will encompass the dollar amount that we are allocating to this development as well. I don't think one should move forward without the other, and that is my main reason for pulling this report. This is a large project that has had serious debate over, like I said, many years. I don't even know the time frame anymore, probably about 7 years. And I think we're just, I appreciate the committee's due diligence and many discussions on this topic, but I would prefer to see this topic be before the council at the same time as we talk about the finances for this project as well.
Okay, any other comments? Alderman Gutenkopf.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I share many of the same concerns that the resident who spoke earlier expressed. I think that we're attempting to pass projects that will then direct us to develop a new downtown plan so that the projects will be in compliance. And I don't like the backward way that we're doing this. I think this project is too dense and too tall, and I will be voting against it.
Okay, any other comments? Seeing none, I'll ask Clerk Cyprian to call the roll on the motion. Yes. Oh, sorry, Alderman Braham, did I miss you?
No, I raised my hand a little late.
Ah.
In regards to my previous comments, I would actually like to make a motion to postpone this report to a date certain. That date certain being the same time, which I believe the city manager has stated, but the same time that the RDA/finance report is issued to the city council.
Let me check on that, Alderman Braham. I think date certain actually requires a date certain. It can't just be open-ended. So
It
that's
can't
a-
be an event specified?
No, I don't believe so. It's actually got to be an actual date certain. Do you concur with that? I'm looking for it right now, Alderman Brand, but the city attorney agrees with me. So I actually think your motion is not in order because it does not contain a date certain.
What is the date of the proposal of having the RDA available?
I know the plan is for it to go before the DP&Z in December, but I don't know what specific day, and I don't know certainly how long they're gonna debate it. Could be one meeting, could be two. Can you find dates certain in there?
No, there's no.
Okay, all right, so we have to go to Robert's Rules. That's okay.
Oh, I think Mr. Mayor's looking into. Oh, I thought you were looking into.
No, I was just double checking. It's not in our, chapter 2, so we do revert, by our own statute, revert to Robert's Rules, so.
Would it be more appropriate of a motion to table this report compared to postponing to a date certain?
What?
I don't think so. Table it to a date certain, but you still need a date. Table it indefinitely and problem otherwise. Why didn't you just
my original motion is
Yeah, but we can't do that.
February?
I guess that's, I mean, he can do that.
If that is not available, Mr. Mayor, to move this along, I would, if the tabling is not an option,
I think the option, if you want to do it, Alderman Braham, is to pick a date that you're comfortable with.
that's what I was gonna do.
So
So I will amend the motion to postpone to a date certain, that date certain being the first meeting in January 2015. Oh, no, it's
So you want to give me a date there, Alderman Brand?
Is that the 5th or 12th?
January 5th.
5th.
Alderman Brand.
Okay, so a motion to postpone discussion of this particular report to January 5th. Yes?
Correct.
Is there a second? Second by Alderman Gutenkopf. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll ask Clerk Cyprian to call the roll on the motion to postpone to date certain discussion of this report to January 5th, 2015. Clerk Cyprian, please call.
Bram,
Aye.
Gutenkopf,
Aye.
Deuter,
No.
Dunn,
No.
Leader,
No.
Palumski,
No.
Toludo,
No.
York,
No.
Levin,
No.
Healy,
No.
Conquest,
No.
Mulliner,
No.
Wagner.
No.
10 nays, well, 3 ayes and 10 nays. One
You guys,
absent.
10,
No, two.
two ayes.
Two ayes.
You're going backwards
Two
there,
ayes,
Alderman Brand.
sorry. Two.
Oh.
Sorry. 2 ayes, 10 nays.
11 nays.
Okay, sorry, and 1 absent, sorry.
2 ayes, 11 nays. Motion fails. Back to the main motion, approval of the report, item 6.10. Any other comments? Seeing none, I'll ask Clerk Cyprian to call the roll on the main motion.
Levin,
Aye.
Palumski. Bram,
No.
Toludo,
Aye.
York,
Aye.
Healy,
Aye.
Conquest,
Aye.
Kennedy, oops, absent, Mulliner,
Aye.
Wagner,
Aye.
Gutenkopf,
No.
Deuter,
Aye.
Dunn,
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
11 ayes, 2 nays, 1 absent.
11 ayes, 2 nays, motion carries. Report 6.0 is approved. On to agenda item 6.12, an ordinance. Clerk Cyprian, I would ask that you read the title of the ordinance.
An ordinance waiving bid and accepting the proposal of Martin Cement Company for the concrete and shallow foundation work for the Addison Street Parking Deck Project and authorizing the execution of a contract between Martin Cement Company and the City of Elmhurst.
To put this before the council, I'd ask for a motion to approve the ordinance as read. Motion by Alderman Healy, second by Alderman Bram. Alderman Healy, I believe this is a result of your committee report. Care to add to it?
No, sir. This is the ordinance of the report that passed a couple of weeks ago. We did put the concrete work out to bid. Some things changed after we put the bid out. Arco Murray felt that after the bid was put out to change the style of the foundation was appropriate and better for the city, and that because we had a limited number of suppliers to that bid on the project, it was felt by both Arco Murray and the committee and the council when it passed the report to work with the winning bidder, whose name, Martin Cement Company, and this is the ordinance to let that happen.
Okay, Alderman Bram?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Alderman Healy's summary actually is one of the reasons why I pulled this, since we had public comment on this tonight, and we had public comment on this very item 2 weeks ago. The one question that Alderman Healy didn't cover is in regards to the residents' question in regards, if anything goes wrong in this winter season, we'll continue, we being the City of Elmhurst residents, will continue to pay for the concrete work. In the ordinance, I think it was also in the report, It did say up to a certain dollar amount, which is $1.68 million, so we are covered up to a specific dollar amount, so it's not unlimited from the contractor's perspective. The other reason why I pulled it, I think this is a necessity, is that I believe this is a need for 2/3 vote, so I think we actually need to have a roll call vote on this item. So that was the secondary reason of actually pulling it off the consent agenda.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll ask Clerk Cyprian to call a roll.
Healy,
Aye.
Graham,
Aye?
Toledo. Aye. York,
Aye.
Levin,
Aye.
Conquest,
Aye.
Kennedy absent, Mulliner,
Aye.
Wagner,
Aye.
Gutenkopf. Aye. Deuter.
Aye.
Dunn,
Aye.
Leader,
Aye.
Palumski.
Aye.
13 ayes, 1 absent.
Okay, sorry.
13 ayes, 1 absent.
13 ayes, 1 absent, motion carries. On to agenda item agenda item 6.12, ordinance passes. On to agenda item 6.14, another ordinance. I'd ask Clerk Cyprian to please read the municipal code.
An ordinance amending section 44.92 entitled Stop Intersections Enumerated of Article 6 entitled Special Stops of Chapter 44 entitled Motor Vehicles and Traffic of the City of Elmhurst Municipal Code.
Okay, to put this before the council, I'll ask for a motion in a second. Motion by Alderman Wagner, second by Alderman Leader. Alderman Wagner, I think this is just amending our code to add a stop sign from a previous report. Anything you'd like to add?
No, nothing
Okay.
at all.
Alderman Bram, you pulled this. You have a comment or a question?
No, this is from the report 2 weeks ago as well, and I have not seen or heard of anything that changed from the initial assessment from our traffic consultant on this topic. I voted no 2 weeks ago, and I just felt it appropriate to do the same this week.
Okay, any other comments? Seeing none, I'll ask Clerk Cyprian to call a roll.
Wagner,
Aye.
Leader,
Aye.
Palumski,
Aye.
Graham,
No?
Toledo. Aye. York,
Aye.
Levin,
Aye.
Healy,
Aye.
Conquest,
Aye.
Kennedy absent, Mulliner,
Aye.
Gutenkopf,
No.
Deuter,
No.
Dunn,
Aye.
10 ayes, 3 nays, 1 absent.
10 ayes, 3 nays, motion carries. Agenda item 6.14 is approved. Before I go to committee reports real quick, Alderman Bram, it's been our practice in the past that you're correct that a 2/3 vote is required, but something left on the consent agenda is considered a unanimous vote, so it has been our practice to do it in that way. So in that case, it would not have been necessary to pull it. On to committee reports. Item 7. It's a report out of Finance. I would ask that Clerk Cyprian please read the recommendation.
It is therefore the recommendation of the Finance, Council Affairs, and Administrative Services Committee that the City Council approve the City of Elmhurst 2014 tax levy in the amount of $9,444,616, representing no increase in the city's tax levy compared to 2013. Furthermore, it is the recommendation of the Finance, Council Affairs, and Administrative Services Committee that the City Council approve the abatement of the current debt service obligation for the city's general obligation bonds in the amount of $3,605,187, which results in a decrease of $500,000 in the city's portion of the tax bill from 2013. It is also the recommendation of the Finance, Council Affairs, and Administrative Services Committee that the City Council approve the 5-year plan to reinstate complete abatement of general obligation debt service.
Very good. To put this before the council, I'll ask for a motion to approve the report and recommendation as read. Motion by Alderman York, second by Alderman Dunn. Alderman York, I think this looks like good news, but why don't you fill us in?
Thank you, Your Honor. It is good news. First of all, I'd like to thank this great committee and the city staff, notably Finance Director Gaston and Assistant Finance Director Troycine, and all city staff for all of their hard work in putting together this report. For the first time, probably in the history of Elmhurst, we are contemplating a tax levy and the adoption of a budget at the same meeting. This result is exactly what then Alderman Morley and I had in mind when we put forth a referral that recommended aligning the fiscal year with the tax levy due date. As the tax levy report we are looking at here tonight has many elements to it, what I would like to do is highlight the end result, just as we did in our report. The end result is that the city of Elmhurst, aside from the library, will reduce its cumulative tax levy on its taxpayers for 2014 by $500,000. That's right, Elmhurst taxpayers will give the city of Elmhurst $500,000 less this year than they did in 2013. For the average home with a value of just under $293,000, the city portion of the tax bill will decrease by $27.31, which is really good news. Just as a reminder for those of us in the dais and people viewing this, there are 3 line items on your DuPage County tax bill that relate to the city. One of them is the city of Elmhurst, the second is the pension fund, and the third line item is the City of Elmhurst LIBR, which I can only assume is shortened for library. The library line item will increase $1.93 for the average home, just for the record. So to dissect this good news and break it down, I think requires a little bit of history and perspective. But Alderman Leader, you need not worry. I'm not going to use any quotes from your old standbys like Shakespeare, Teddy Roosevelt, or Ronald Reagan. In fact, I won't even quote Adam Smith or Alan Greenspan. Back in 2009, just after I arrived on City Council, there had been this little recession thing going on, and financially things were not looking all that good here in Elmhurst. There was new leadership under Mayor DeCiani, and he took what was, I think, a bold step then in creating a finance task force made up of 25 well-credentialed volunteers tasked very simply to review the budget and to analyze all elements of the city's finances and operations with a goal of making recommendations to the city council that could change the city's financial course. The co-chairs were Kevin Diamond and now Alderman Levin, and the guy sitting to my right, Alderman Dunn, was a committee chair on that task force. I've kept a copy of my task force final report in my budget book for many years. Since the fall of 2009, and I've leaned on its content along with my formal education, business experience, and some common sense to formulate my opinions and help craft policy since that time. Believe me when I say it was not easy to make a decision in 2009 to raise taxes like we did, or reduce services and let people go. However, it simply had to be done in order to set the course for where we find ourselves today. For perspective, at April 30th in 2010, the general fund balance bottomed out at about $3.8 million, and I think it was projected to actually be below $3 million, but we made some bold moves to keep it where it was. Having lost about $3.3 million in reserves in that fiscal year alone, but since 2006, 2007, the general fund balance had dropped by nearly $10 million. The minimum prescribed balance for the general fund of 25% of annual expenditures was about $9 million at 4/30 of 2010. The working cash fund was almost fully drawn at just about $1 million as well. My biggest concern, one that I've personally voiced over and over again and relentlessly worked to resolve, was to restore fund balances to at least the prescribed levels. Taxpayers, ladies and gentlemen, after 5 years of hard work, I'm pretty sure we're there. Projected general fund balance at 12/31/14, the end of this year, is expected to be just above $19 million, and the working cash fund is restored to $1 million, which is where it's supposed to be. Based on adjustments made to the 2015 budget that we've been discussing in the past few weeks, the general fund balance at the end of 2015 is now projected to be at $17.4 million, a level that is about $2.6 million over the maximum prescribed balance of 33% of annual expenditures. With this being the case, why wouldn't we consider a greater tax reduction, whatever form it takes? excuse me, I'm gonna refresh myself. Well, simply put, just as we didn't fix the entire $10 to $15 million shortfall problem in one fell swoop in 2010 and 2011, I don't believe that this committee would be prudent in recommending reduction of the tax levy through whatever component of the tax levy might be chosen by the amount that the general fund balance is above the prescribed maximum level at one specific point in time. As our report clearly spells out, we discussed many things in arriving at our conclusion as to what we recommend. Revenue sources other than tax revenues are moving upwards. But what happens if we were to lose a major sales tax contributor or a particular retail sector took a hit? One only has to hearken back to 2013 to remember the pension funding reset that was thrust upon us and we had to react to. And we are all acutely aware of the scope of the stormwater projects that are out there throughout the city. And we budgeted about $13.6 million over the course of the next 2 years just to tackle a small portion of these. We all know about the economic development initiatives that are currently on the table and the cost of those, but most of us also realize that additional resources will likely be required to keep Elmhurst moving forward in that very critical area of economic development. When you put in perspective all these what-ifs, as well as the methodically restoring service levels over the past few years, in 2014, we are taking the first step in what this committee believes should be a 5-year plan to restore all debt service costs back to an abated basis with an expected 5-year rollback of $2.5 million. Reserving a couple $1 million in the general fund above the maximum prescribed balance for now seems both reasonable and appropriate. Some of these resources could perhaps fill the gap in a potential GO bond issue, keeping us under bank levels. They could totally eliminate debt issuance for a particular stormwater initiative. And finally, they might be required for an unfunded mandate or a revenue decrease handed to us from Springfield unexpectedly. The committee has taken the cue from the Finance Task Force report at what feels like the appropriate time and has embarked upon what we hope to be a 5-year process to reinstate full abatement of debt service costs. As usual, this committee will work tirelessly to look at every opportunity available to reduce the tax burden on the taxpayer going forward. This review will not only take place at budget and levy deliberations, but as we routinely examine other matters related to the finances of the city of Elmhurst. It is with a sense of accomplishment and an eye to even greater outcomes in the future that I ask for your support of this committee's report. This report is a critical element of the budget that we will be reviewing and hopefully adopting later in tonight's meeting. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions, and I also see that Tom and Marilyn are here too, in case somebody stumps us. Thank you.
Very well put, Alderman York. I think Alderman Leader would be proud. Any other comments as it relates to what I consider a good report and a good setup? Alderman Levin.
Well, I would just like to say, you know, we have people come before the council on many occasions and very recently accusing the council of not being good stewards of the public's fund, raising taxes unnecessarily, when in fact, we did take, you guys did, I wasn't here, but the taxes had to be raised and services cut, as you mentioned, back in 2010. But since then, we've gone most years without any increase. I think we had a decrease. One year we might have had a small increase. This year it's another decrease. So I think we can all be proud. I'm proud of the committee's work and also of our staff that we're able to do this, to not only, it's not just about not raising taxes, but it's doing it at a time when we're maintaining and actually increasing some of the services, and we have a plan to give back the abatement. So I commend the committee on its work. I'm proud to support this, and it looks like the future's bright. Thank you.
Alderman Dunn.
Just to follow up on some of the things that Chairman York said, and also along with Alderman Levin, back in looking at the history of the levy and the city contribution versus pension and the debt service, Way back in '98, we were levying about $4.4 million, and about $1.2 million of that was for the pension. And over the next 10 years, from '98 to 2008, we experienced levy increases anywhere from 0 to 4%, and the debt was 100% abated, meaning none of that was passed on to the taxpayers. As was mentioned before, in 2009, as a result of the recession and some of the recommendations of the Financial Task Force, the levy was increased to about $10.5 million. A lot of that the increase was due to the debt service being added. It was a 40% increase in the city levy that in that particular year, and about 40% of the debt being not abated, which means that was rolled over onto the taxpayers. And then, as Alderman Levin mentioned, the next 5 years were, again, fairly stable. We went anywhere from a 1% reduction to 8% increase. As a result, the overall tax levy of $11.5 million last year was at about a 2.5 times increase compared to 1998. But the city portion of that was only a 1.5 times increase over that time frame, whereas the pension obligation that is an automatic calculation, and as everyone is well aware, it becomes becoming a higher and higher visibility item. That increased about 3.5 times over that time period. So I think that the city, our finance department, the city council has done an excellent job in the decisions that have been made to be prudent in expenditures and to enable these levies to be of a modest range. The one that we have now shows a 12.28% decrease in the city portion of the levy, which is very healthy. We're looking at about an $800,000 reduction in that city portion that the taxpayers will see on their tax bill. The pension portion will go up 5.8%, or about $300,000. And then there's a small increase in the library. So overall, we're going to see a 2.5% decrease, in spite of the fact that our pension obligations continue to increase. So again, I think this is great news, and the plan that is being proposed to increase the debt service not abated by $500,000 a year is feasible. If we continue on this trajectory, we can get there in 5 years. Thank you.
Okay. Alderman Leader.
Well, as Teddy Roosevelt would say, just joking. But seriously, this report truly speaks eloquently to why Elmhurst possesses the coveted AAA Standard & Poor bond rating, and why Elmhurst will continue to possess that AAA Standard & Poor bond rating. Thank you.
Alderman Bram.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll start out in saying thank you to the committee for their hard work on this. I know anytime you talk about tax rate levy or anything in finances, neighbors and residents sit at the edge of their chair to find out what is coming down the pipe. I had offline discussions today with Director Gaston on this. My question I was going to pose to the committee, and I posed to, like I said, Director Gaston as well as another alderman, is why not abate all of our debt this year compared to the additional $500,000 that the report is saying. After a few exchanges, I definitely understand why we can't take it to the next level. And some of those, or 2 points of those, is that the 2015 projected revenues included a tax rate levy increase, to my understanding. I don't recall what that number was exactly. But so the fund balance that's listed in our budget book of 4.6 million minus the 1.2 if we move ahead with that, so $3.4 million isn't actually realistically that high. And then it also doesn't include the additional $500,000 that Alderman York spoke about today and the report speaks to, so that whittles the fund balance down even further. I think neighbors have to realize that every single year that we have a challenge before us, and that challenge is that salaries continue to go up, pension costs continue to go up, and just doing daily business continues to go up. And I will say that I think the city council overall has done a very good job with trying to manage the tax rate levy as much as all possible. And I would say that this year, I think the proposed report is right on the mark. Earlier today, I would have liked to seen it take it to the next level, but a little bit further discussion with Director Gaston, I got clarified and set on the right track that that's just not the right financial direction to go at this time. So I hope everybody else supports this report. And again, kudos to the staff and the committee for their hard work on this. Very thorough report.
Any other comments? Alderman Wagner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also want to congratulate the committee and all the committees since 2009 and 2010. I know there's a couple people on the dais around the committee back then as well, and the fantastic finance staff that we have. What a job. I mean, you were lockstep with the committee all along. It was very bleak. I'll never forget the first 3 months of being an alderman, and well, maybe you can concur, but it's a little bit like drinking out of a fire hose, and I remember the then city manager presenting a graph, and it's kind of like, hey, you just won the election, now here's a bag of coal, you know, basically go try to make energy with it. It was just some bleak time. So this day, I didn't think we'd see it as soon as we did, so I commend the committee again and all the staff members, and certainly Marilyn and Tom. You did a fantastic job, and we appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, any other comments? Seeing none, I'll ask Clerk Cyprian to call the roll.
Alderman York.
Aye.
Alderman Dunn.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Palumski.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Toledo.
Aye.
Levin.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Conquest.
Aye.
Kennedy absent. Mulliner.
Aye.
Wagner.
Aye.
Gutenkopf.
Aye.
Deuter.
Aye.
13 ayes, 1 absent.
13 ayes, 1 absent, motion carries. I typically don't opine during a discussion, but I will take the opportunity now. I think this is fantastic news. There once was a time where the city actually abated all of our debt service, and then we ran into these financial challenges. And certainly I want to thank the citizens of Elmhurst. Without their contributions, we wouldn't be in this position. And then accordingly, city staff and the committee's hard work. It's just absolutely fantastic that our fund balances are where they are, and we're in a position to not only decrease the overall tax rate this year of $500,000, but to not only do that, but the committee took it a step further than they didn't have to pull together a 5-year plan to reinstate complete abatement of all our obligations. And I think that's fantastic. It's a real credit to the city, staff, and everyone's hard work. So good news all around on that one. On to agenda item 8, reports and recommendations. 2 things from me tonight. One is I want to thank Dan Gibbons and his entire staff and the entire committee. They held their 31st annual turkey trot this weekend on Thanksgiving. I think most of you are aware, but the gist of the Turkey Trot is to feed any and all people in DuPage County who can't otherwise do so themselves. So not only is it a noble cause, but it was just an absolutely fantastic day. It was incredibly cold, but Turkey Trot still had over 8,000 people in attendance. The Lima Lima crew flew overhead. Jim Cornelison sang the national anthem over a freight train that was driving through during, and it was really a terrific time. It was a fantastic showcase for Elmhurst, and looking forward to next year. So congratulations and thank you to Dan Gibbons and all the supporters and sponsors of that event. And then a quick note, 25th anniversary, hard to believe, 25th anniversary. This Wednesday, December 3rd, the Special Kids Day. That's a charity started by Rich Rosenberg. And it's a celebration for children of all ages with special needs, their siblings and families. And this year it is held at the Wilder Mansion, Wednesday, December 3rd, the Wilder Mansion, 3:30 to 8 p.m. And that's just another way that shows folks in Elmhurst reach out. So thank you to the entire Rosenberg family, and I appreciate that. On to City Manager Grabowski.
Thank you. Just one update regarding stormwater. As you recall, at the last meeting, the mayor detailed a letter that we had sent to the Park District regarding their decision for the use of York Commons. We received a response to that from the Park District. It was basically a letter from their engineering firm with additional questions on the letter that we had sent. So we are meeting with the Communications Committee this Friday morning at 7:30 to continue those discussions, just so the council is aware.
Okay, any other reports or recommendations? Seeing none, we'll go on to, yes, we're not done yet, are we? Agenda item 9.1, ordinances, the big one we've been working on for the last 2.5 months, the budget. Clerk Cyprian, sorry about that. I'd ask that you read the ordinance.
A budget and appropriation ordinance for the City of Elmhurst for the fiscal year beginning on January 1st, 2015, ending on December 31st, 2015.
I'll ask for a motion and a second to put this before us. Motion by Alderman Dunn, second by Alderman Mulliner. Any discussion to add to the last 12 weeks of what we've been doing? Alderman Gutenkopf.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So now that we have this in front of us and we have the spreadsheet that shows the adjustments that are resulting from the decrease to the Historical Museum budget, I have some specific questions about that. It's on the attachment to the ordinance. So it looks like $103,000 are being removed from the museum's staffing lines, and I wonder if you could have the city manager address how this is expected to affect the museum's ability to both complete its new permanent exhibit and to manage its daily operations.
Wait, Alderman Gutenkopf, could you identify where in the ordinance?
Sorry, it's on, which page is this? There's a page number on here. I believe it is page 3 of the attachment document. It's under Historical Museum.
It's the second landscape page.
Yeah.
Did I get that?
It's the last item.
Word docs, my computer's broken. All right.
So
All right, go ahead, Ms.
Historical Museum is the last set of adjustments. This document outlines the carryovers
Got
from
it.
this year's budget, as well as the specific reductions that have now been determined will affect the Historical Museum's budget. The bulk of the reduction comes from the full-time and part-time wages and the city's contributions to benefits. It totals approximately $103,000 of the $125,000 reduction. I have specifically 2 questions about the reductions to the budget. And the first question is, I'd like to understand how the reduction to the wages and staffing in both the full-time and part-time lines are going to affect the museum's ability to both complete its permanent exhibit and to manage its daily operations.
Okay. City
That's
Manager
my first
Grabowski.
question.
Yes, City Manager Grabowski, the upgrade of the current exhibit that we're all aware of regarding Elmhurst and staffing.
Well, the exhibit is well on its way, as you're probably aware. A lot of work has been put into it. I would tell you that we understand the direction of the city council by the motion that was put in place and the reduction. We are working very hard, not only at the exhibit, but at the strategic plan, so that we can get that to the committee as soon as possible, so that the city council can reconsider the restatement. So until, I guess, that July 1 deadline, we don't see it affecting the staffing at the museum.
So if at all, it wouldn't affect the staffing until later in the year?
That's correct.
And my second question has to do with, sort of in the same vein, in the building repair and maintenance line, 5001, there's been a $15,000 reduction, and this specifically is called out to affect track lights, carpet, gallery wall fabrication, and painting to be completed after December 31st. And these activities seem to me to be pretty crucial to the museum installing exhibit components and having a gallery space that will feel complete. So by reducing this by $15,000, how does that affect the exhibits and the gallery space that are going to be key components of installing the new exhibit?
Again, I don't see those affecting it until the second half of the fiscal year. And in that case,
So are these not
will have to
components that
be-
are part of the new gallery? Are these other renovations to the building?
City Manager Grabowski is asking, I would ask the indulgence of the council to allow Ms. Gaston to address some of these issues.
Thank
Can I get a head nod from everybody? Okay. Good thing you're here.
Just to clarify, the 15,000 reduction was from the 2015 budget. Then there's the carryover of the 12,300. Those are the dollars that will be used for the track lighting and the lights and the explanation that you see there for the new exhibit. So we are covered on the expenses that relate to the new exhibit coming on.
So what will the 15,000 reduction affect? Are there any specific projects?
That I'm not sure of, but as City Manager Grabowski said, I believe there would not be any impact until the second half of the year, if at all.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments as it relates to this ordinance, the budget? Alderman Gutenkopf.
Yes, I don't think we've done a fair job or treated our employees fairly or have behaved in an appropriate manner, as our responsibility is a policy-making body and broad general oversight and not specific staffing and departmental level operations. I make a motion to restore the Historical Museum's budget to the level that we initially proposed and add back in the total of $125,000. It's conveniently outlined on this spreadsheet exactly what money would go where.
And just go with the spreadsheet, you have to mention it in the.
Okay. And then we can vote on it, and as we discussed, we can vote on it afterwards. Okay, so Alderman Gutenkopf, I'm going to try to summarize your motion, which is just basically to add $125,000 back to, in this case, line item 110-7060. Is that a fair summation of what you're hoping to get to?
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay, a motion has been made to add $125,000 back into the Historical Museum line item, in this case, 110-7060. Motion, do I have a second? Second by Alderman Bram. Any continued discussion? Alderman Deuter.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a clarifying question by if this change were to be made, does it slow down the budget's ability to be passed tonight? Is this something that would,
No, our code allows for us to make changes to, it didn't used to, but we rewritten the code, so this motion can be made this evening, but then if it passes or doesn't pass, if it does pass and the change is made, we can still vote on the ordinance with the change in it. Okay?
thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Alderman Healy?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick technical question. Is this technically an in-order motion, since basically this is a motion to reconsider what the council voted on 2 meetings ago?
I think this is, the motion to reconsider, and I discussed this with the city attorney, that was the body of the committee of the whole. This is now before the actual council. This is new to the council, if you will. So a motion's appropriate. Okay, any other comments or clarifications required? Seeing none, I will ask Clerk Cyprian to call the roll on the motion to add $125,000 back into the museum budget line item.
Gudenkauf?
Aye.
Deuter? Bram?
Aye.
Toledo?
No.
York?
No.
Levin?
Aye.
Healy?
No.
Conquest?
No.
Kennedy, absent. Mulliner?
Yes.
Wagner?
No.
Deuter?
Aye.
Dunn?
Aye.
Leader?
No.
Palumski?
No.
I lost count.
Me too.
Oh, I got 15. Oh, no.
Six ayes, 7 nays. Is that what you got?
Okay, 6 ayes, 7 nays, 1 absent.
6 ayes, 7 nays. Motion fails. 7 nays. Failed to achieve majority.
Rule of 7.
Rule of 7, right?
Rule of 7.
Even with, it didn't achieve the 7, it fails anyway.
The assumption, if I may be indulged, Mr. Mayor, the assumption is that the absent alderman may have voted yes.
No, if someone votes present, they vote with the majority, but an absent alderman doesn't vote. It is what it is.
If this was on the plan.
Has to vote. It's, absolutely has to vote. Absolutely.
No, why would it would fail?
Nope.
It would just fail. What it boils down to. It has to get to 8, it fails.
Because it can't get to.
Right. There's nothing for me to do. If it were 7-7, it'd be a different story.
Or even 7.
You have to get to 8. Okay.
You'd have to vote at 50%.
Yeah, but it didn't. No, motion fails. Okay, any other comments or questions as it relates to agenda item 9.1? Seeing none, I'll ask Clerk Cyprian to please call the roll.
Alderman Dunn?
Aye.
Mulliner?
Aye.
My agenda.
Wagner?
Aye.
Gudenkauf?
No.
Deuter?
Aye.
Leader?
Aye.
Palumski?
Aye.
Bram?
No.
Toledo?
Aye.
York?
Aye.
Levin?
Aye.
Healy?
Aye.
Conquest?
Aye.
Kennedy, absent. 11 ayes, 3 nays, 1 absent. 2 nays and 1 absent.
11 ayes, 2 nays.
1 absent.
11 ayes, 2 nays, motion is approved, budget is approved. On to other business. Any other business? Seeing none, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn. Motion by Alderman York, second by Alderman Deuter. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, staff.